Welcome back to the Mindset Advantage. I'm Jeffrey Wendel, and I'm excited to be with you for episode 11. We've just completed part 2 of our series, where we focused on applying mindset principles to business and career. Now we're moving into part 3, the mindset for life. Over the next 5 episodes, we're going to explore how these principles extend beyond the boardroom into every area of your life. And I can't think of a better place to start than with one of my greatest passions, coaching baseball. For those who don't know, in addition to my work as a business mentor and life coach, I have the privilege of coaching the UC Indians baseball team in Union City. And I can tell you without hesitation, some of the most powerful lessons I've learned about mindset, resilience, and success have come from the baseball field. Today, I'm going to share stories and lessons from my coaching experience that demonstrate how the principles we've been discussing throughout this podcast apply not just to business, but to youth sports, parenting, and life itself. This is going to be a fun episode, so let's dive in. Baseball is often called the thinking person's game, and there's a reason for that. Unlike many sports where you can rely purely on athleticism, baseball requires constant mental engagement. Every pitch, every play, every decision requires focus, strategy, and the ability to manage your emotions. But here's what makes baseball such a powerful teacher. It's a game of failure. Even the best hitters in the world fail 7 out of 10 times. Think about that. The greatest players in the history of the game are successful only 30% of the time. That means baseball players are constantly dealing with failure, setbacks, and disappointment. And how they respond to that failure determines whether they succeed or struggle. That's why baseball is the perfect laboratory for teaching mindset and resilience. When I work with the UC Indians, our mission is clear. We focus on player development, both mental and physical skills. We bring an energetic, passionate, and competitive culture where everyone has the opportunity to achieve goals higher than they ever dreamed. Notice that phrase, achieve goals higher than they ever dreamed. That's not just about baseball, that's about life. I'm teaching these young players skills that will serve them long after they hang up their cleats. Let me tell you a story that perfectly illustrates the power of the so what next pitch philosophy we talked about in episode 2. We were playing a crucial game, and one of our outfielders, let's call him Jake, was having a rough day. In the 3rd inning, a ball was hit to him, and he dropped it. Error. The other team scored 2 runs because of that mistake. I could see it on his face. He was devastated. His shoulders slumped. His head dropped. And I knew exactly what was happening in his mind. He was replaying that error over and over, beating himself up, worrying about what his teammates thought, what his parents thought, what I thought. So I called timeout and walked out to the outfield. I looked Jake in the eye and said, "Did you drop that ball?" He nodded. I said, "Can you go back in time and catch it?" He shook his head. Then I said, "So what?" Next pitch. That play is over. It's history. The only thing that matters now is the next ball that comes your way. Are you going to be ready for it? I saw something shift in his eyes. He took a deep breath, nodded, and said, "I'm ready, coach." 2 innings later, another ball was hit to Jake. This time he made an incredible diving catch that saved the game. After the game, he came up to me and said, "Coach, if I'd still been thinking about that error, I never would have made that catch. Thank you for helping me let it go." That's the power of So What Next Pitch. It's not just a baseball philosophy, it's a life philosophy. How many times do we get stuck replaying our mistakes instead of focusing on the next opportunity? How many times do we let one failure prevent us from attempting the next challenge? Whether you're a baseball player, a business professional, a parent, or a student, the principle is the same. Acknowledge what happened, learn from it, and then consciously choose to focus on what's next. One of the most important things I do as a coach is create a culture where mistakes are learning opportunities, not reasons for punishment or shame. In many youth sports environments, mistakes are met with frustration, yelling, or blame. And what does that create? Fear. Players become afraid to take risks, afraid to go for the difficult play, afraid to fail. And when you're playing from a place of fear, you never perform at your best. With the UC Indians, we've built a different culture. Our intro on our Facebook page says it perfectly. UC Baseball is focused on player development, both mental and physical skills. We will bring with us an energetic, passionate, and competitive culture where everyone will have the opportunity to achieve goals higher than they ever dreamed. That culture is intentional. When a player makes an error, the response from teammates isn't blame. It's so what? Next pitch. We've got your back. When a player strikes out, we don't focus on the failure. We focus on what they learned, what they'll do differently next time. I remember a game where we were down by 5 runs in the last inning. Most teams would have given up. But our players looked at each other and said, enough is enough. Somebody's got to step up and make the play. And they did. We rallied, we fought, and even though we didn't win that particular game, we won something more important. We proved to ourselves that we don't quit when things get tough. That's the culture we're building. And here's what's amazing. When you create that kind of supportive, growth-oriented environment, players don't just become better athletes. They become better people. They learn resilience, teamwork, perseverance, and the value of supporting each other through challenges. I want you to think about your own quote-unquote field right now. Maybe it's not a baseball field. Maybe it's your workplace, your classroom, your home, or your community. Think about a recent quote-unquote error you made, a mistake, a setback, a moment when things didn't go as planned. Now I want you to ask yourself, how did you respond to that error? Did you get stuck replaying it, beating yourself up, letting it affect your next performance? Or did you acknowledge it, learn from it, and move on to the next pitch? And here's the second question. What kind of culture are you creating on your quote-unquote field? If you're a leader, a parent, a teacher, or someone who influences others, are you creating an environment where mistakes are learning opportunities? Or are you creating an environment where people are afraid to fail? These questions matter because the culture you create determines whether the people around you thrive or just survive, whether they take risks and grow or play it safe and stagnate. Let me share one more story that illustrates a principle we talked about in episode 4, running through the wall together. We were facing one of the best teams in our league. They were undefeated, and honestly, we were the underdogs. Before the game, I gathered the team and asked them a question. When adversity hits today, and it will, are we going to run through the wall together, or are we going to take the easy way out? Every single player committed. We run through the wall together, coach. And adversity did hit. We were down by 3 runs in the 5th inning. We had runners on base, but we kept making outs. The pressure was building. I could see some players starting to doubt. That's when our team captain stood up in the dugout and said, "Remember what we committed to. We run through the wall together. Let's go." What happened next was incredible. Player after player stepped up. They supported each other, encouraged each other, refused to give up. We ended up winning that game in the last inning. And it wasn't because we were more talented than the other team. It was because we were more committed to each other. After the game, one of the parents came up to me with tears in her eyes and said, "Coach, my son has never been part of something like this. He's learning lessons that will serve him for the rest of his life." That's what happens when you build a culture of commitment and support. Whether it's a baseball team, a business team, a family, or any group of people working toward a common goal, the principle is the same. When you commit to running through the wall together, you become capable of things you never thought possible. Let's recap the lessons from the baseball field that apply to every area of life. First, baseball teaches us that failure is inevitable, but how we respond to it is everything. The so what next pitch philosophy helps us acknowledge mistakes without getting stuck in them. Second, creating a culture where mistakes are learning opportunities unlocks potential. Whether you're coaching a team, leading a business, or raising a family, psychological safety allows people to take risks and grow. Third, power of running through the wall together transforms what's possible. When a team commits to supporting each other through adversity, they achieve goals they never thought they could reach. And finally, the mental side of the game matters more than the physical side. Mindset, resilience, focus, and emotional management are the skills that separate good from great in any endeavor. Here's my challenge for you this week. Apply one lesson from the baseball field to your life. Maybe it's using "so what" next pitch when you make a mistake. Maybe it's creating a more supportive culture in your workplace or home. Maybe it's committing to run through the wall with your team when adversity hits. And if you're a parent, coach, or leader working with young people, I encourage you to focus on the mental side of the game. Teach resilience, build confidence, create cultures where mistakes are learning opportunities. The impact you have will extend far beyond the field or the classroom. Thank you for joining me for episode 11 of The Mindset Advantage. I hope these stories from the baseball field have given you insights you can apply to your own life. Next week, we're going to talk about mindset lessons for parents, raising resilient, confident children. Whether you're a parent, grandparent, teacher, or mentor, this episode will give you practical strategies for helping young people develop the mindset they need to thrive. Until then, remember, the mental side of the game determines the outcome. Focus on your mindset, support your team, and never give up. Change your mind, and you will change your life.